Ho, ho, ho! Merry Christmas!
Santa, Mr. Claus, Father Christmas. You all know him. He's the jolly old dude who comes into people's homes at night to leave gifts for kids around the world. But where did he come from? Who came up with him? Well, in this video, we'll be taking a look at the history of Santa Claus. The first concept of him goes back to the 4th century, by a Greek bishop named Saint Nicholas from Nia, now Demre, in what was the Holy Roman Empire. He was known for his generosity by giving gifts to the poor in payment so that they don't become red district workers. Fast forward a bit, and on the 6th of December, children were given gifts in honor of him, before they moved the day to the 24th, 25th day of December. In 16th century England, the first description of modern-day Santa appeared. He was seen as a large man wearing a green robe lined with fur, or in a visual description, what Christmas present looked like from A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens. In Dutch, Belgium, and Swiss folklore, Santa is based on Sinterklaas, which is based on Saint Nicholas. Noah's the Kerstman in the Netherlands, and Père Noël in France. He has Pieten in Dutch, or Père Fouettard in French, which was not elves, but the first time of the concept of Santa having elves. Meanwhile, the Germanic peoples celebrated Yule, a midwinter event before they converted to Christianity, which was absorbed into modern Christmas. During this period, supernatural and ghostly occurrences were said to have increased, including the Wild Hunt, a ghostly procession in the sky, in which the leader's name was Wodan, bearing other names, who had a long white beard and a grey horse which he rode at night, giving the beard we know that modern-day Santa has. In the 1800s, a U.S. writer named Washington Irving wrote Sinterklaas into Santa Claus, which the term was used during 1773, which was intended to be a parody of the Dutch culture. Later, it would be part of a movement to tone down the Christmas celebrations of the era. In 1821, a book called A New Year's Present to the Little Ones from 5 to 12 was published in New York. It contained Old Santa Claus with much delight, which was written anonymously. It tells Santa Claus on a reindeer sleigh bringing rewards to children. Some modern ideas of Santa seemingly became canon after the poem was published, called A Visit from Saint Nicholas, better known as The Night Before Christmas, on the 23rd of December 1823. Later Clement Clarke Moore claimed authorship, though some scholars argued that Henry Livingston Jr. was the author. Either way, we are now closer to modern-day Santa Claus, thanks to this poem, with the introduction of his riding a sleigh being pulled by reindeer and giving kids gifts. Later in 1845, Kris Kringle was used to say his name across the U.S. A magazine article from 1853, describing American Christmas customs to British audiences, refers to children's hanging stockings up on Christmas Eve for a fabulous personage, adding the first, Santa coming down the chimney and filling stockings, stereotype of Santa. As years passed, Santa started to appear more large and heavy set. One of the first artists to do this was by an American cartoonist named Thomas Nast, giving Santa his rounded belly. Also, he was probably the first person to give Santa's home, the North Pole, and by the 1870s, it became so popular that a boy from Colorado wrote to the children's magazine The Nursery, "If we did not live so far away from the North Pole, I should ask Santa Claus to bring me a donkey." In the mid-19th century, the idea of Santa having a wife began to appear thanks to American authors, giving the introduction of Mrs. Claus. Catherine Lee Bates popularized her in the poem, Goody Santa Claus on a Sleigh Ride. 1902, and we're almost close to the Santa Claus we know. In that year, a guy named L. Frank Baum published The Life and Adventures of Santa Claus. Now at the time, much of the stuff we know as Santa Claus wasn't firmly established, meaning Baum give his Necklaus, Nessile's little one, a variety of immortal support, a home in the laughing valley of Ho-Ha-Ho, and having 10 reindeers, though couldn't fly but can jump enormously. Santa officially earned his immortality by vote, officially making him immortal. In the 1930s, The Coca-Cola company started advertising Santa wearing red and white, which the design was created by Haddon Sundblom. After that, urban legends began to sprung up saying that Santa was created by Coca-Cola or he wears those colors to sponsor the company. Coca-Cola's competitor, Pieces, also started to use it in the 1940s and 50s, and even then, they weren't the first ones to make up Santa's red suit. White Rock Beverages used the suit to sell mineral water back in 1915, then used it again in 1923 to sell ginger ale. And even as early as of the first few years of the 1900s you've been seeing in a red and white suit for a cover of a magazine. So, Santa's famous red suit has been around for a really long time. I hope he washed the suit because that'll be one heck of an odor that might ruin the Christmas atmosphere. We're now almost at the end of Santa's history, and as we start to close the book, I just want to say that one of the greatest gifts you can give is donating some of your money to a charity. No, this video isn't sponsored. I just want to say that because it's one of the greatest gifts you can give to a person. Speaking of charity, Santa's character of being a benevolent guy appeared thanks to charity workers of the Salvation Army during the 20th century. These charities were usually donated to families who need aid. Then in 1937, a man named Charles W. Howard, who would dress up as Santa Claus in department stores and parades, established the Charles W. Howard Santa School, the oldest continuously run such school in the world. So thanks to him, Santas would appear in stores, malls, etc. during the holidays. During the century, images of Santa personally making toys like a craftsman began to show up, but later the elves would show their little body and make the toys, showing the world who makes the toys for Christmas. Now I know I didn't mention all of the things, but I wanted to tell the important part of Santa's history from Saint Nicholas to modern-day description of him. But if you want to read the whole thing, I'll leave the Wikipedia page in the description. This has been the history of Santa Claus. Thank you for watching and happy holidays.